God is trying to speak to you right now. Not tomorrow, not later, now. And if you've come across this video, it didn't happen by any accident. There is a much greater reason than you imagine for you to be here at this exact moment. But before you hear what he has to say, answer me honestly. Have you felt that no matter how much you pray, how much you believe, or how much you try, something invisible keeps blocking your life? Do you wake up in the morning with that heavy feeling in your chest, as if you were waiting for something that simply never arrives? Do you look around and see people in places like Charlotte or Dallas prospering, being blessed, achieving dreams, while you feel like you're running in circles without getting anywhere? If you nodded your head in agreement, stay until the end of this video. What I am going to reveal to you here will completely change the way you see everything you are experiencing right now. These are not superficial words of comfort. It is a real, urgent, and precise message from the Eternal Father, directly to you. I know you've heard promises before. I know that at some point in your life, perhaps while you were living in a place like Seattle or Philadelphia, someone told you that your turn was coming, that God does not forget his children, that the blessing was on its way. And you believed it. But months went by, years went by, and that pain you thought would go away remained. It stayed quiet inside you. It stayed hidden in moments of silence, in the early hours of the morning when you can't sleep, in that tightness that appears when you are alone with your thoughts. And then comes the question you never have the courage to ask out loud, but that knocks on your head every now and then. Is God really still seeing me? That ends today. Because God is waiting for you. It's not a pretty phrase to cheer you up. It is a truth that you need to understand in the depth that it carries. But before we dive deeper into this message, I need to ask you for one small thing that has a huge meaning. Click like on this video right now. It's not for me. It's because this simple gesture is a declaration from you that you are ready to receive. And if you aren't subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe now and hit the bell, because what we share here every week has been changing the lives of people who are exactly where you are. Now you need to understand one fundamental thing before we continue. This is why the Father prepared the sacred book for you, the 21 Days of Prosperity and Alignment with God. This sacred book is not just a read. It was designed for people who feel that their prayers are hitting the ceiling, that their alignment with God was broken at some point along the way, and who know that there is something greater reserved for them, but cannot see how to get there. The link is in the first comment of this video. This content has already faced attempts to be silenced because it challenges the narratives of the system. While the link is still active, this is your window. Comment now. I am chosen, and I will download the digital book. It's not just a phrase, it is a spiritual declaration. Now that you have decided to act, the next truth I tell you will be the final blow against the most dangerous lie the enemy has planted inside you. The biggest mistake most people make when going through a difficult period is confusing God's silence with abandonment. It is interpreting the delay as rejection. It is thinking that if the doors are not opening, it is because the Father has decided to turn his face the other way. And that is exactly what the enemy wants you to believe. Think about it. If you start to believe that God has abandoned you, what happens to your faith? It goes away. And when your faith goes away, what happens to your stance in the face of battles? You stop fighting. You stop praying. You stop believing. And then without faith, without prayer, without spiritual positioning, you become completely vulnerable, exposed, without protection. It's not a coincidence. This is a strategy. And to understand why God says today that he is waiting for you, we first need to understand what is happening beneath the surface of your life. Because the problem you see, whether it's financial, emotional, or in your relationships, is just the visible tip of something much larger happening in the spiritual realm. Let me explain. When you look at your life and see that something is stuck, the first thing most people do is try to solve it on the physical plane. They work harder, they change jobs, they move from a city like Chicago to a place like Phoenix. They end one relationship and start another. They seek a course, therapy, a new strategy. And I'm not saying these things are wrong. But I am saying that if you have been applying physical solutions for months, maybe years, to a problem that has a spiritual root, you will continue to run in circles, because you are trying to fix the roof when the problem is in the foundation. A survey conducted by American researchers in the field of human behavior identified that more than 68% of Americans over the age of 35 report a persistent feeling that something is missing, even when objective life conditions are relatively stable. This feeling has a name in the field of psychology: existential vacuum. But what science calls an existential vacuum, the Bible has already described for millennia with surgical precision. It is the heart that was made for God and finds no rest in anything else. It is the absence of a connection with the Creator that no material achievement can fill. Have you noticed that there are people who have much less than you on the material plane, but seem to carry a peace that you cannot find? Have you ever wondered why? It's not luck. It's not naivety. It is alignment. It is a living connection with the source that no circumstance can sever. And it is exactly this connection that God is calling you to restore today. Before continuing, I need to stop here for a second to speak to you directly. What you are feeling now, this weight in your heart, this mixture of hope and exhaustion, this desire to believe mixed with the fear of being disappointed again, that is not weakness. This is the sign that you are still spiritually alive. The heart that has completely stopped feeling no longer even feels the pain. You still feel. This means the fire is still lit inside you. And it is exactly this fire that God wants to revive. That is why the Father prepared the sacred book for you, the 21 Days of Prosperity and Alignment with God. This sacred book is not just a read. It is a spiritual protocol developed for people who are at this exact moment in their journey. People who still have faith but who have felt it diminish, who still pray but who somewhere deep in their hearts no longer know if they are being heard, who carry old promises and are beginning to doubt if they are still valid. The sacred book will work with you on 3 fronts at the same time. First, it will help you identify and undo the spiritual blockages that are damming up your blessing. Blockages that are often not even yours, but were transmitted through generations, through word curses, through unconscious pacts you would never have made on purpose, but that are operating in your life. Second, it will restore the communication channel between you and the Father. It will teach you to pray from a place of real faith, not performative religiosity. It will help you hear the voice of God again. And third, it will equip you with the spiritual tools to operate with authority, to declare over your life, to open doors that were closed, to reap what has already been sown. The link is in the first comment of this video. This is one of those pieces of content that the system doesn't want you to see, because when you understand the rules of the spiritual game, you stop being prey and start being victorious. They have tried to silence this material before, and while it is still available, it is your turn. Comment below now, "I am chosen and I will download the digital book." This is your declaration. Be seen by heaven. Now that you have decided to act, the next truth I tell you will be the final blow against the greatest invisible enemy operating within your own mind. There is something in the Christian tradition that many people know by name, but few truly understand. It is called spiritual warfare, and most people, when they hear this term, think of dramatic battles in other dimensions, of extraordinary mystical experiences. But real spiritual warfare, the kind that affects your life every day, is much more subtle and much more devastating. It happens in your mind, in the thoughts you have about yourself, in the voice that appears when you are trying to take a step of faith and says, "Who are you to receive this? You don't deserve it. You've failed too much. You are not worthy." That voice is not yours, but it learned to use your voice so that you wouldn't realize where it comes from. Think with me. Have you ever had a dream that felt so vivid, so real, a certainty in your heart that it was for you, and then immediately after there was a cascade of reasons why it was impossible? You felt the call, felt the breath of spirit, felt there was a promise, and then your own mind started working against you. This is not a coincidence. This is the main battlefield. The Apostle Paul in Ephesians 6 was not speaking in metaphors when he described the armor of God. He was giving a practical protocol, a list of spiritual equipment that you need to use consciously every day to protect exactly what the enemy most wants to steal from you, your belief that God is on your side and that your victory is guaranteed. When that belief is destroyed, everything else collapses. Let me give you an example you will probably recognize. Think of someone you know. It could be a family member or a friend in a place like Boston or Atlanta who went through a major loss. a bankruptcy, a divorce, the death of a loved one. And after that loss, they simply shut down. Shut down to God, shut down to people, shut down to new possibilities. From the outside, it looks like the person is protecting themselves. It looks like they are being realistic, being mature, no longer deluding themselves. But what is really happening is that the pain created a wall. And that wall, which was built to protect, ended up becoming a prison. Because it doesn't just keep bad things out, it keeps the blessings out too. And maybe you recognize yourself in this. Maybe at some point in your life you built that wall. And maybe even if you continue to pray, even if you still go to church, even if you still speak the name of God, somewhere deep inside you there is a wound that says, I can't truly trust because the last time I trusted I got hurt. It is to that wound that God is speaking today. Wait a second. Because what I just described, that wall you built to protect yourself that ended up becoming a prison, that has a cure. And the cure is not superficial. It's not a 5-minute prayer before bed. It's not a pretty verse at the start of the day. The cure is a process. It is a journey. It is a decision to dismantle layer by layer everything that has been accumulated over the years. And it was exactly for this process that the Father prepared the sacred book, the 21 Days of Prosperity and Alignment with God. This sacred book is not just a read. It is a guided 21-day accompaniment that will take you through each layer of spiritual blockage that stands between you and the life God has already decreed for you. Each day of the sacred book was built on solid biblical principles combined with spiritual practices that activate what neuroscience calls the reprogramming of mental patterns. Because God created your mind, and He knows how it works. He knows that genuine spiritual transformation creates concrete changes in the way your brain processes reality. The sacred book specifically works on the blockage we just talked about, that wall of protection that became a prison. It will guide you in a process of healing the wounds that are at the foundation of that wall. It will show you how to forgive without minimizing what happened, how to trust again without being naive, how to open your heart to the Father without the fear of being disappointed once more. Because when that wall falls, what enters is no longer pain. It is what was dammed up outside waiting, the prosperity that has already been promised, the doors that were ready to open, the right people God had already designated to enter your life, the opportunities that were waiting for you to be in a position to receive them. The link is in the first comment of this video. This material has already been the target of removal attempts because it delivers tools that the system would rather you didn't have. While the link is active, it is your window of opportunity. Don't procrastinate, because procrastinating is exactly what the enemy wants. He knows that if you download this book and go through the process, the game changes, and he will use any excuse to delay. I'll download it later, I'm busy now, I'll finish watching the video first. Download it now before you leave here. And comment below, I am chosen and I will download the digital book. Declare it over your life. Declare it over your future. Declare before heaven that you are moving. Now that you have decided to act, the next truth I tell you will be the final blow against the spirit of complacency that tries to convince you that this is all you will ever have. Let's talk about the promise. Because we can't end this video without talking about what God has truly promised you. There is a passage in Jeremiah 29:11 that you have probably heard. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. This is one of the most cited passages in Christian circles. You've read it hundreds of times. But I want you to read it again, now, with the eyes of someone who is going through what you are going through. I know the plans I have for you. God didn't say He will think about you when you become better. He didn't say He will develop a plan when you prove you deserve it. He said, I already know. The plans already exist. The prosperity has already been decreed. The expected end already has an address. The problem is not that God doesn't have plans for you. The problem is that you don't yet truly believe that these plans are for you. And this disbelief, this feeling that blessings are for others, for people in places like New York or London, is the foundation of all the other blockages in your life. Think of a moment in your childhood. It doesn't have to be a specific moment, just a period when you believed without filters, when you thought everything was possible, when you dreamed without self-censoring, when you asked God for big things without feeling ashamed to ask. Where did that boy or girl go? It wasn't life that ended your faith. It was the accumulation of unprocessed disappointments. It was every time you took a step of faith and took a fall. Every time you bet on someone and were betrayed. Every time you prayed for something specific and it didn't come. And instead of processing that pain, instead of taking it to God and saying, "Father, I didn't understand this, help me," you swallowed it. You kept it. You added another stone to the backpack. And today you carry decades of stones. The good news is that God doesn't need you to carry this alone. In fact, He never wanted you to carry it. But while you are carrying it, there is no room for the blessings He wants to give you. Do you know what the most powerful thing you can do today is? It's not to pray more, it's not to read the Bible more, it's not to go to church more often. These things are important, but that's not what will move heaven right now. What will move heaven is a decision. A decision that from today on you stop allowing the past to define your spiritual future. A decision that you are going to let go of the control of trying to understand everything that happened and you are going to surrender it. A decision that you believe, even if with faith the size of a mustard seed, that God is not finished with you yet. This decision, when taken with sincerity, creates an opening in the spiritual realm that changes absolutely everything. It's not magic. It is spiritual law, and it works regardless of how you are feeling right now. There is fascinating research conducted by Stanford University that analyzed the effect of active faith, not just intellectual belief, but conscious spiritual practice, in more than 5,000 participants over 7 years. The results were impressive. People with active faith showed 35% more resilience in the face of adversity, 42% more ability to set and achieve long-term goals, and significantly lower levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, in crisis situations. What does this mean? That the connection with God is not just a matter of beliefs. It is a matter of how your entire system, body, mind, and spirit, functions in the world. When you are aligned with the Father, you literally process reality differently. You make better decisions. You attract different opportunities. You resist where others give up. You see exits where others only see walls. And that is exactly what is being blocked in your life while this alignment is broken. Now let me tell you something that maybe no one has told you yet. God is not waiting for you with His arms crossed, with a list of your mistakes in hand, ready to collect. This image of a God who keeps tallying your failures is a distortion. It is an image that was planted by wounds, by toxic religiosity, by people who used the name of God to control you through fear. The God of the Bible, the Father that Jesus revealed, is the same one who ran toward the prodigal son when he was still far off. He didn't wait for him to arrive. He didn't wait for him to explain himself. He didn't wait for him to prove he was sorry. He saw him from afar, and he ran. Think about what that means. The son had done everything wrong. He had asked for his inheritance early, which in the culture of the time was the equivalent of wishing for his father's death. He had wasted everything. He had reached the lowest point possible, and he was returning with a prepared apology speech, expecting to be received as a servant, not as a son. And the father ran. That is who is waiting for you today. Not an impassive God who needs to be convinced of your sincerity, but a Father who is seeing you from afar, who sees what is inside you that you yourself can no longer see, and who is running toward you at this moment. What He is waiting for is not perfection. It is a step. And it was exactly with this step in mind that the Father prepared the sacred book for you, the 21 Days of Prosperity and Alignment with God. This sacred book is not just a read, it is the map of this way back. It is a spiritual guide that will take you exactly where you are now, with everything you are carrying, all your doubts, all your fears, all your accumulated disappointments, and will lead you, day by day, into an alignment that will transform not only your spirituality but every area of your life. Let me tell you what this sacred book will do for you over the 21 days. In the first 7 days, you will work on what the book calls a deep spiritual cleansing. These are prayers, meditations, and practices of surrender that will begin to release the weight you have carried for years, sometimes for decades. Grudges you don't even know you're holding on to anymore. Resentments that are blocking the flow of grace in your life. Limiting beliefs that were installed in you by people and situations in your past, and that continue to operate on autopilot, sabotaging everything you try to build. This process is not superficial. It's not a one-sentence-a-day devotional. It is a real immersion, guided by biblical principles and spiritual practices that have transformed the lives of thousands of people who were exactly where you are. From day 8 to day 14, you will enter what the sacred book calls the reconstruction of the altar. This is the process of restoring your intimacy with God, of relearning to pray from a place of genuine faith, not fear, not religious performance, but a real relationship with the Father, of relearning to hear the voice of God in moments of silence, in everyday circumstances, in those coincidences that are actually disguised divine directions. This part of the process is usually the one that transforms people the most, because when you restore intimacy with God, when you truly feel that you are not alone, that there is an infinite intelligence taking care of every detail of your life, the fear goes away. The anxiety diminishes, and your heart begins to open again to the possibilities that were locked. Imagine waking up in the morning and feeling peace, not the absence of problems, real peace which exists even with problems present. Imagine going to sleep at night without that tightness in your chest, without ruminating on past mistakes, without anguish about the future. Imagine having the certainty, not a fragile hope, but the unshakable certainty that someone much greater than any obstacle you face is in control of your story. This is what restored intimacy with God does, and it is exactly what the middle 7 days of the sacred book will work on in you. From day 15 to day 21, you enter the stage of declaration and manifestation. This is the period when you begin to operate from a place of active faith, where you learn to declare over your life with genuine spiritual authority. Not the type of declaration that is the repetition of phrases without conviction, but a declaration born of one who knows who they are and knows what was promised. You will learn to identify the windows of opportunity that God is opening in your life and that you may be ignoring because your spiritual radar was turned off. You will learn to make decisions aligned with the divine plan, not based on what fear dictates, not based on what the world offers, but based on what the Father has already prepared. And the result of the 21 days, it's not a good feeling that lasts a week and disappears. The result is a foundation. It is a new way of relating to God, to yourself, and to the reality that surrounds you. It is a spiritual mindset that will accompany you, that will influence every decision, every relationship, every step you take from now on. Now let me talk about something that needs to be said clearly. You've made it this far in this video. That is not a coincidence. On an ordinary day, with everything you have to do, with all the distraction that exists in the world, you stopped. You listened. You stayed. This has a spiritual meaning that goes beyond what you can see now. There is a word in Greek that appears many times in Scripture, kairos. It doesn't mean just any moment, it means the right moment, the opportune moment, the moment when the window is open and the action taken now changes the course of what comes after. This is a kairos moment for you, not the next video, not tomorrow morning now. The Father prepared the sacred book, the 21 days of prosperity and alignment with God, and placed it in the path of your life at this exact moment, not by accident. It is because this is the moment when you are ready to receive what is in it. It is because what you have lived up to this point, including the pain, including the disappointments, including the difficult nights, was part of a process that brought you to this point of openness. The link is in the first comment of this video. I need to warn you about one thing with all seriousness. This content has already suffered real attempts at being silenced. It is no exaggeration. When a material teaches people to break through cycles of scarcity, to undo spiritual blocks, to operate with authority in the spiritual realm, it threatens structures that prefer you bound, and threatened structures react. This sacred book has been the target of this before, and that's why, while the link in the first comment is still active, this is a real window that you cannot let close. Don't leave it for later, because later is the enemy's favorite trap. He doesn't need you to say no definitively. He only needs you to say not now. And not now turns into never without you noticing. You have already delayed enough. You have already waited enough. You have put the needs of others ahead of your own enough times. Today is for you. Go to the first comment of this video now. Access the link to the sacred book. And before you do that, comment down below. I am chosen, and I will download the digital book. This declaration is not symbolic. It is real. When you make it publicly, you are creating a commitment to yourself, to the Father, and to the plan that has already been traced for your life. You are saying, I believe. I am ready. I am moving. Heaven hears, and heaven responds. Let me ask you a question that will stay in your head after you close this video. A year from now, where do you want to be? Not just in terms of material achievements, but in terms of how you want to feel, how you want to relate to God, what kind of peace you want to have, what kind of faith you want to carry. Now answer me something else. What will be different next year if you continue doing exactly what you have been doing until now? This question is not to embarrass you. It is to wake you up. Because the greatest waste of a human life is not failing. It is continuing on autopilot, expecting something to change without changing anything. God has already prepared an expected end for you. He has already decreed prosperity over your life. He has already written a chapter of restoration with your name on it. But you need to move in the direction of that promise. You need to take the step that meets the Father halfway. And before we close, I need you to do one thing now. Share this video with someone you know who needs to hear this. Someone in a place like Chicago or San Francisco who is in the same place you were before watching this video. Someone who is tired of waiting, who lost faith at some point, who is carrying a weight that was not meant to be carried alone. This gesture is an act of love, and acts of love create spiritual flow in your own life. And if this video touched you in a way you weren't expecting, comment below what you are feeling now. It doesn't have to be a long text. It can be one word. It can be touched. It can be received. It can be, I am here, Father. Each comment is a declaration. And we read every single one. God says to you today, I am waiting for you. Not on the other side of a list of impossible requirements. Not after you become perfect. Not when the circumstances of your life improve. Not when you manage to solve everything that is messy. He is waiting for you now. With everything you are, with everything you carry, with everything you haven't been able to solve yet, with all the questions you still don't have answers for. You don't need to come to him ready. You just need to come. This is the most genuine invitation you will receive today. From a Father who sees you from afar, who sees inside you what you yourself can no longer see, and who is running towards you at this moment. The message that reached you today is not mine. I am just the channel. The message is his. And it says, I haven't forgotten you. I never turned my face away. What you have lived is not abandonment. It is preparation. And the moment for you to come out of this preparation and enter the fullness of what was promised for your life is coming. But you need to move. And so that you don't have to make this journey back alone, the Father prepared the sacred book for you. The 21 Days of Prosperity and Alignment with God. This sacred book is not just a read. It is the Father's extended hand through 21 days of a spiritual practice that will lead you from where you are to where you were created to be, from scarcity to prosperity, from isolation to real communion with the Creator, from exhaustion to renewal, from doubt to the unshakable certainty that you are a child, you are an heir, and what was promised to you will be fulfilled. The link is in the first comment of this video. This material has already been the target of silencing attempts because it sets people free. Because when people understand the rules of the spiritual game and learn to operate within them with active faith, the cycle of scarcity breaks. And there are forces that prefer you stuck in that cycle. While the link is available, it is your window. Go to the first comment now. And before downloading, declare here, I am chosen, and I will download the digital book. Declare it. Be seen. Be heard. Take the step that the Father is waiting for. If you stayed until here, I want you to know that this was not by chance. Nothing God does is by chance. This video reached you because there is a purpose unfolding in your life that is greater than any obstacle you are facing right now. Don't waste another day. The Father is waiting, and the victory already has your name on it. See you in the next video.